Good evening, everyone, and welcome to episode 5 of the Magi Show. Well, I've got an exciting guest booked for tonight. Her name is Lailani, and she's going to be talking about a bunch of different things, and we're going to be getting on to some other things at the end of the show. Let's see, what are we talking about? Tarot cards, other forms of divination, spells, even essential oils. And essential oils is something that I'm really interested in, so I've been looking forward to the show all week. And sorry for all the viewers that thought we were going to start at 7. I actually had to rebook the show for a little bit later just because I was spending some time with my grandma and couldn't say no to that. So I really appreciate Lailani for being able to schedule it a little bit later. And yeah, sorry to all the viewers for that. And yeah, I'd just like to say thanks for everyone for sharing the show lately. It's like just started off and I'm starting to get subscribers, and it's really touching to see such support for some of the shows that I've done already. I think this is what are we on, guest number 4 in 1 week, so really appreciate all the guests for coming on too, and got another one scheduled coming up on Thursday. So I guess before I get her on the phone here, I'll read her introduction. Let's see. Right, Lailani is a healing facilitator, spirit diviner, mystic, magical practitioner and educator with over 20 years of experience. And she assists and supports her community's spiritual growth by offering a wide range of services such as tarot cards, other forms of divination, spirit communication, spell work, herbalism, root work, blessings, cleansings, chakra and aura cleanings or clearings, and aromatherapy, plus customized enchanted items upon request. And for those of you who've listened to the shows before, it's like I really like to talk about enchanted items because I believe that's what the Anubis amulet I have is. So maybe we'll get to talking about that on the show. Hope we have some time. All right, and Lailani also formulates oils and various other magical products for her clients throughout her through her small business, the Magickal Solution. And additionally, she is also an independent distributor of Young Living essential oils, a key ingredient in many of her other products, working to educate the masses on practical and magical uses and benefits of essential oils. Yeah, so I also deal a lot with essential oils too, so I can hardly wait to get to that part of the show. For her full-time job, she is a sexual health educator for Planned Parenthood that serves high-risk areas throughout the state of New York. So man, that's quite the full-time job. And prior to that, she had over 11 years of experience working in mental health field as an advocate for special needs individuals. Yeah, my uncle's he is a special needs individual, so I really appreciate her doing that type of work. Her passion is to serve others, and she has always gone through life with the intention of using all of her gifts and abilities to help promote, attain peace and happiness, or help people obtain peace and happiness. And perhaps the modality through which Lailani's commitment to service shines brightest is through education, contributing to the advancement and preservation of knowledge, whether it be as a teacher to others or in her own journey as a lifelong student. Yeah, I can relate to that, and has been a constant theme in her life. Finally, as if she wasn't busy enough, Lailani is also an avid singer who regularly performs solo and with her band outside the box in and around her hometown of upstate New York. So man, that's pretty incredible. I've heard her sing a few times on YouTube before, and she has an incredible video. So if anyone wants to hear her sing, we're going to have a song. Well, I got a song queued up for the break, so stay tuned for that. And she's also available for private workshops, lessons, or parties, and apprenticeships. And just to give a shout out to how you can reach her and find her work, you can visit her on Facebook at Facebook, The Magickal Solution. And to contact her, it's The Magickal Solution at Gmail. And her YouTube channel is the same thing, The Magickal Solution. And just in case anyone isn't able to find those links very easily, I'll make sure to include it in the write-up in the show afterwards. Alright, so I guess I'll just check the studio, make sure everything's good in Toronto. Nothing coming through from my mom's basement. But yeah, I think everything looks ready to go. The stream health isn't doing so bad, so I guess I'll try calling her next, and hopefully Skype is able to connect properly. Alright, wish me luck, everyone. It's funny with Skype, sometimes it works great, and other times it's a bit hit and miss, so keeping my fingers crossed here for this. Okay, got a bit of a question mark coming up first, so cancel that. We'll try it again. Ah, there we go. Oh, hey, Lailani. Can you hear me all right?
I can hear you.
Okay, great. So,
can you see me?
Yeah, so far so good. Looks like we got Skype working.
Hey.
All right, thanks again for... Yeah, thanks again for coming on the show with a little bit of a delay there. We were supposed to start at 7. I really appreciate you pushing it back to 9 for me.
No, of course. No, thank you so much for having me on your show. This is really exciting.
Cool. All right, so I guess, did you want to talk a bit about how you got involved in all this first, or then we'll get maybe to your slides after?
Woo! How I got involved into the magical world, you say?
Yeah, I guess that'd be a good place to start.
Oh, man. Well, I guess I'll start you off with that cliche answer, you know, that I guess I've always been this way, you know, that odd little kid that just was always by themselves, that sat underneath the tree and, you know, meditated with energies that are in nature and that other people couldn't see, but you saw, right?
Nice.
So that's the cliche answer. That started around the age of 7. So, you know, seeing people's energies, seeing spirits, always spending a lot of time in nature, listening to voices in nature, things like that. So that started when I was around 7.
Wow.
But really the doorway in which I came in actually was through tarot. And
nice.
let me see. Oh my God. I picked up my first deck probably around the age of 11.
Okay.
10 or 11. And but then actually started working with them because I picked it up and I didn't really quite know what it was, and I just, you know, put it off to the side, and I really didn't utilize them till around 11 or 12, which is a really funny story. And ever since I started using those cards, it was just like the floodgates just open. Next thing you know, I'm just reading everything and like a sponge, just taking everything in. And yeah, that's pretty much where it all started.
Wow. Yeah, I had a deck of tarot cards back when I was a teenager too, but I never really got into them too much, and ended up giving them to my cousin, and then she was upset because I had lost a couple of the cards, and I guess they're not good after that, right?
True. Did you end up ever using any other kind of divination?
I got into the Ouija board a little bit, but had some weird things happen with that, so it's like... Well, I guess the story was we were practicing with the board in the cemetery on top of a tomb. I guess I don't recommend doing that. That was a horrible thing to do. But the board actually had the planchette or the piece started to levitate off the board when we were using it. And I always thought that was weird because you usually only have the tips of your fingers touching the top. So lifting it off the board was kind of unusual. And then after we took it home, the planchette piece was missing and we couldn't find it. So I was going to throw out the board, but I figured, hey, we'll just maybe see if it turns up one day. And then like 6 months later, it just appeared in the center of the coffee table. So I was like, how did the planchette piece just vanish like that and reappear? So it kind of spooked me out a little bit. I don't know, I guess...
You had that whole thing of like the Ouija board don'ts 101 right there. Ouija board, cemetery, like...
Yeah, I guess a lot of people seem to have stories like that about using the Ouija board though, right?
Oh, totes.
All right, so I guess...
As a matter of fact, I think my older brother had a story about that. My older brother, apparently, this was when he was a kid. We were living in Manhattan, and apparently he had the Ouija board, he was playing with it, and your typical story, I am the devil, shows up, it spells itself out.
Wow.
And, you know, he screams to my mother, and my mother throws away the board, and then it appears back in the house again. You know, the same old story that everyone seems to tell, but it was told to me, so I'm like, all right, I guess that happened. I wasn't there, so I don't know. But yeah, everyone seems to have a Ouija board story. It's pretty funny.
All right, cool. Well, I guess maybe I'll bring up a few of your slides and we'll get started into what kind of work you do. The first one I got going is the tarot cards. Maybe I'll just switch screens here. Where is that? Yeah, so what I did is I just put together a few slides about Lailani's work here. And tarot cards is the first one. All right, there we go. Yeah, so is there anything more that you'd like to add to using tarot cards? I guess basically how they work, if viewers haven't heard of them before, is you have a deck of cards that has different symbols or I guess pictures on them. And then there's some sort of divination process in how you pick out the cards.
Right. I actually did a video on this on my YouTube. It is, you have the cards, it's separated into two different halves, if you will. So you have the major arcana and the minor arcana, and you know, there's a whole history as to where it comes from and how it came about. But for the most part, all you really need to know is, you know, it's pictorial images that are supposed to stimulate, you know, psychic revelation as you're reading the cards. And, you know, there's also debate as to, not debate, but there's also different forms of, what do you call it, the layouts. And everyone has different ways of doing it. The common one is like the Celtic cross. There's also different ways of reading the cards. You can read them directly from the book. You can read them intuitively. Some people don't even, to be honest with you, the way I use it, I'm gonna reveal a little sneak peek. The way I use them is, to be honest, they're kind of for show. I don't really utilize them anymore. Like, they used to be very much by the book and very much intuitive, and now I just kind of have them out on the table because people are more comforted going to a tarot reader with tarot cards on the table.
Yeah, sort of like having slides for a talk show.
Exactly. It's just you give them some imagery and you kind of point to a couple things as you're talking, but for the most part it really comes from within. But that's highly debatable. Like, I can talk to other tarot readers and they'll be like, no, you have to know the meanings of the card. You have to know them reverse and right side up and like to the T and to the book. And yeah, I never really wasted my time with that. I did that in the beginning and felt like it was too restrictive and I couldn't relate to them, you know, because these were definitions that were made a long time ago, you know?
Yeah, so I guess how long have these cards been around for? Was it like the 1800s when they came out, I wonder?
A little bit before that. It's no, I mean, historically they say that it was in Italy in the 1400s, but we really don't know. We really don't know, you know? And then not only that, but the minor arcana, which a lot of people relate very much to the playing cards. I mean, that could go even further back. So people aren't quite sure, but they do place it to Italy in like the 1400s,
Yeah, it's fascinating. No, I like to research all the ancient history of stuff, so it's cool to find out how old they are.
Yeah.
Okay, one of the... you wanted to continue, sorry?
Yeah, I'm sorry. No, the crazy part was, you know, I think the way that I continued... I read them... Right, it's hard to explain. So let me just kind of tell you a quick story. So when I was 2 years old, my very, very, very first encounter with an individual with the playing cards, with the tarot deck, I was at a Latin festival, and I was 12 years old, and I had my tarot cards with me, and I'm sitting on a blanket on the ground, and it's like a picnic situation, and I'm shuffling my cards, playing with my cards, and a woman walks up to me, and she says to me, you know, please read me. And she's telling me in Spanish because I'm at, a Latin festival. Nice. So I call over my dad because I don't really speak Spanish. Like, I understand it, but I don't speak it. So I called over my dad and I asked him to be my translator for me. Okay. So she comes, she sits, and I start pulling the cards. and I go over to reach for the book to look up the definitions.
Yeah.
And as I go to do that, all of a sudden I'm beginning to feel things. And I mean very intense things. My chest starts to cave in. I'm having a hard time breathing.
Wow.
There's all of this stuff happening. And I look down at my cards and I see all of the health cards pretty much all upside down. And I'm looking at her, and she looks like a regular healthy person.
Yeah.
But I had no choice but to be like, look, this is what I'm feeling. I don't know what it means, but it feels like I can't breathe, and it doesn't look good.
Oh.
And, you know, she looks at me and she nods her head and she goes, okay, keep going, keep going. So I'm like, okay. And that subsided. And then I pull some more cards, and I mean, I look at these cards, and in combination, they don't look good. By themselves, they don't look good. In the layout, they don't look good. And I'm just like, oh my God, this is my first reading, and I think I have to tell someone that they are going to die.
Holy
and
cow.
it was the most intense feeling. And my father is sitting right there. And so I say it. I said, I'm sorry, but I don't know what you have, but it doesn't look like you have very long. And if you don't take care of yourself now, I just don't know what else to say.
Yeah.
And she looks at me and she says to me, I have 3 months to live. I have lung cancer.
Holy cow.
And then she pulls out a cigarette.
Oh no.
She throws me a 20 and she says, you're good. And then walks away. And my father's face just dropped. But the point of the story is that, like, I've continued to read like that my whole tarot reading career. It's more of a feeling. I feel people and I feel their situations, and the cards are just kind of there to guide me a little bit, you know. So that's pretty much how I.
No, it's tough to be the bearer of bad news, but sometimes you got to tell people stuff they don't want to hear, just because it's for the best overall too, right? And I always try to go with my gut on things too. It's like, even times when I've gone to the casino and I've been playing blackjack, I made some of the dumbest moves, but my stomach was just telling me to do something differently, and people are all laughing, and then you end up winning a ton of money. So it's like, if you go with your gut, sometimes it actually works out for the best, right?
Oh my gosh, I'm such a proponent about listening to your higher self.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of people ask me, they're like, Lailani, you know, what are you initiated in, and what's your spiritual path, and what's your tradition, and what's this and what's that? And the truth of the matter is, I'm a solitary. I've been solitary the whole time. I will continue to be solitary. I've been tempted to join covens and groups and be initiated in X, Y, and Z. But the truth of the matter is my higher self has yet to fail me. And everything that I've learned has been through that. And I don't see any reason why change up a good thing? You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I do a lot of research with ancient mystery stuff, and a few times people claiming to be Freemasons have invited me to join, but I always figured it was best if I worked on these mysteries on my own and not get too caught up in the dogma that already exists in the field, because a lot of them have hit dead ends in their research, so I really don't want to get down that path, right?
Right, so it's...
Oh yeah, I was just going to mention too that we do have the live chat going, and some people are already talking in it. So if anyone's got questions during the show, make sure to don't be shy and go ahead and ask.
Yay!
All right, so I guess we'll move on to the next slide. Then that's everything you wanted to cover on tarot cards, or at least for today's show.
I think so.
Okay,
sure.
Cool. All right, the next one I got was the spirit communication, and I just brought up a slide. This is the first thing that came up on Google for it, but I wasn't sure if this one really has anything to do with spirit communication, or...
No, but that's super cool.
Yeah.
I actually like that, because that's just a really cool picture. No, well, yeah, I mean, I can see where they were going with that, actually, because there is, I mean, as far as ceremonial magic goes, you know, you can create portals via symbols such as that, and, you know, having candles in certain positions and saying certain words, et cetera, to kind of summon and bring in spirits. But I definitely don't do that.
No, I've heard that this symbol...
spirit communication is kind of a form of, like, mediumship, if you will, or actually more necromancy because it's done while I'm doing the tarot.
Yeah.
Yeah, and unfortunately, I can't do it on command. So it's one of those things where I'm doing the tarot, and you know, I'll be reading a person, and all of a sudden, one of their people comes through, and now I have to try and figure out what they're saying and what's happening, and then I relate that information to the client, and they either confirm or deny. But a lot of times, 99% of the time, it's someone that they know.
Okay.
Or it's a spirit guide that they need to connect with at that time for whatever is going on in their life.
Yeah.
It could be a protector guide that's always with them and just wants to be known. Or I get this once in a while, because once you open up that portal, anything can come through, right? So like the minute you're doing your tarot readings, it's kind of like opening up that vibe. So what'll end up happening is a passing spirit will just come passing through. And they're usually the ones that they either stop by because they're curious, or they stop by because the person that I'm reading reminds them of something, or they're connected somehow to that person. Wow. Maybe the way they look, maybe their name, maybe an experience that they're going through at the time. I rarely get those passing spirits, but when they do come through, it's so interesting. It's so interesting because they end up being very, very helpful for that person. You know, I'll get a phone call later on saying, hey, you know, I did what you told me to do, and I got to know their name, and I got to know who they are, and I asked them to help, and X, Y, and Z happened, and I'm just like, awesome. And then they go away. You know, they're not needed anymore. You know what I mean? So usually that whole spirit communication thing is just what it is that person who's getting a reading from me needs at that time, you know?
Okay. Yeah, I noticed some people mention that symbol in the center. What is it? I guess, is it called the pentagram, or?
Yeah, the pentacle,
Yeah, I know some people are saying that's a symbol for protection, and I noticed when I was researching mirrors and how the ancient Egyptians used to use those, that they put the Eye of Horus on for protection too. So it's almost like demons or some sort of like possession could occur if you don't have these symbols for protection. It's pretty wild stuff.
That is so true. So true. Yeah. You definitely need to have some kind of protection going on, for sure. Yeah, no, I looked at it because, you know, with the spirit communication, usually when you're working or when you're summoning some kind of a spirit, it's usually done in the shape of a triangle. So that's why I saw that. I was like, oh, that must be what they're trying to do. But yes, no, it's definitely protection, connection with the 4 elements, and being grounded in the 4 elements, 5 elements. Yeah, you should have that for sure when working with spirits. Oh my gosh, yeah.
Now, I guess I've kind of had like spirit communication in my life before. It was actually my best friend died about 10 years ago, and then he used to be in my dreams a lot, or I'd have dreams like it seemed like it was relating to why he was how he died and such. So I don't know if like maybe that's another form of communicating with the spirits, is through dreams.
It definitely is. And first of all, I'm sorry to hear that about your friend.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
Dreams are the easiest way for them to communicate with you. The easiest. And for you to communicate with them as well.
Yeah.
You know, it's just this idea of putting that intent out there and asking them to come through the dreams. The key is to remember it when you wake up. And that's usually the issue that everyone has, is remembering it, you know?
No, it's actually my grandma used to be when she lived in Ukraine, she was a famous dream psychic, and it feels like I almost inherited a bit of what she used to do. So in a way, I'm lucky, I guess.
Are you a dream walker?
Well, I can do what is it called? Like, not astral projection, but when you sort of become aware in dreams. I forget what that's called. But
lucid.
Yeah, lucid dreaming, that's it. And sometimes I'll have dreams like stuff that's going to happen the next day, almost to the point where it's like an identical copy of what's going to happen the next day, or it'll just be like symbology of what's going to happen also. So
awesome.
It's a little bit scary of a thing sometimes, because I'll see someone going away in an ambulance, and it's like, do you tell the person about it? It's like you don't want to freak them out, especially if nothing's going to happen. And I guess in some ways it's almost like a curse, because if something strange happens and no one knows what caused it, it's like if you're going to go around telling everyone before it happens, it's going to make you like the prime suspect, right? So I don't know. That's how I did a lot of my ancient research and how I worked on my invention too, is I'll get dreams and I try to go with them and interpret as much as I can. And I guess I'm lucky that I can remember it quite a bit after the fact. Sometimes even for a week after.
Wow,
Yeah, it
that's
depends
awesome.
it depends how vivid the dream is. Usually I can tell like normal dreams will sort of have like they're just like you're seeing through your own eyes. But if I get a dream that's like in a third person where I can see it like I'm watching it on a movie camera, that's usually when I can tell it's like something important and I should pay attention to.
Right, because you're kind of doing that like observer. You're in that observer role as opposed to the participant.
Yeah,
Yeah, for sure.
well, it's pretty wild. Okay, I
That is
guess,
wild. That's cool.
yeah, I might cover a little bit more about that at the end of the show, but I don't want to be talking too much about myself here since it's your time on the show. I guess the next thing I have a slide for is spell work. I don't know, I'm not really too familiar with spell work at all, but I did find a slide for it here.
Yeah, spell work. So, I try very much not to do this too much for clients. I don't like to be, a witch for hire. But when I'm noticing people need cleansings and people need, blessings and banishings and stuff regarding health is what I like to focus on. Um, then I'll do some things for them to help them out. So spell work is this idea of, creating a mini ritual, kind of having like a microcosm right in front of you, right? And this idea of having all the elements at play in this small little space in front of you,
Okay.
and putting it out into the universe and allowing it to manifest in its own time. So you're taking the natural elements, things that already have a science behind them, things that already have a place here on this earth, and you're kind of like a chemist where you're allowing these energies to intermingle with each other in such a way that it creates change. And you as the magician or you as the witch need to know which elements play nice with each other and which ones harmonize with each other, and
Yeah.
how they can create change. You know what I mean?
Like, I've heard clay is used often, or maybe it's different elements.
Yeah, for sure.
So does
Because
that
you have
involve?
the earth, fire, and water, and clay. Clay would definitely be that. Actually, that would be more of like a central element because it incorporates all of them. It requires the earth, it requires the water, and then you have this biblical idea of breathing life into it, and then baking it to make it solidify. So it kind of has all those elements all in one, which is really cool.
Yeah, that came up in the last show. I was talking to one of our guests about Santeria and the creation mythology, about how clay was involved, and it's neat how it's like the Sumerian stuff has that involved with it too, in the ancient Bible. It's like clay just keeps getting mentioned over and over again.
Yeah. What else is really common too that I notice in a lot of myths is this idea of breath and
Oh yeah.
sound, and air in a way. As a matter of fact, I have a tattoo on the back of my neck. It's a Hindu symbol of the Om,
Oh nice.
and yeah, and that symbol a lot of people don't know, but that's like it's kind of considered the first cause. It's the first sound. It's the first thing that's ever been, and it's the one thing that kind of set into motion all of creation. And whenever I think about that, and I only got that tattoo because I'm a singer, but whenever I think about that, I always say to myself, wow, in the other myths, the very first thing that the gods do or God does is usually say something.
Yeah, like the word.
It's usually like this what, and then the word. So I'm like, wow, there's really something to this idea of sound and voice and words and language and intent being put out there through the mouth, basically. That's crazy.
Yeah, spell work is pretty fascinating. I'm gonna have to check more into this later. All right.
Yeah,
So I guess I don't have a slide up for it, but you also mentioned you do some work with herbalism.
I do. Now, so let me make it clear. I might as well do it here on the show. So I am
Sure.
not a certified herbalist.
Okay.
Okay. And I'm not a certified aromatherapist. I always want to make that clear so that clients know, what I'm recommending don't get me wrong, I've done the research and I've learned as much as I can independently.
Yeah.
And I have many, many people that I'm close to who are certified herbalists and who are certified aromatherapists who take the time to teach me, which is wonderful.
Nice.
So my blends are very much intuitive, and I know everything I need to know to make sure I don't harm you or harm your animals or your children or anything like that. But what I do is completely intuitive and completely kind of like channeled in. Oh, this needs to go with this. Oh, this needs to go with that. And bam, it's done, you know?
Okay. Yeah, I'm thinking about getting more into that too, because my invention that I've been working on deals a lot with aromatherapy, and I guess I wonder how long the certification process is for that. It must be like a year or two, or?
Yeah, I believe it's like a 2-year thing. Yeah.
Wow.
And the herbalism one, I believe that's a 4-year one. I have to double check. It used to
Wow.
be. They might have shortened it now.
Yeah, no kidding. Right, the next slides I had going was, I don't know, this one I think was to do with Hoodism or something. But I guess I got a little bit mixed up on that one. So maybe we'll skip on to the blessings and the cleansings.
Blessings and cleansings. Yes,
Yeah.
that's actually one of my favorite things to do.
Okay, cool.
For sure. Because here's the thing with that. And you know, when people come to me, they usually ask for help or they usually ask for some kind of a spell work. 99% of the time, Leland, it's usually that they just need a good cleanse. They just need to get rid of all the caca, no more bad stuff, and start fresh. And once they do that, once they clear the mind, clear the body, clear the spirit, it's like, oh, okay, now the roads start opening and now things are moving in a positive and good direction the way I want them to, you know. And it's sad to say that I have to, you know, because they don't want to hear that. Like, they want a spell, you know what I mean? Oh, can you make this happen? And oh, can you do this? No, dude, you just need to take a bath.
Yeah.
And they just, once they do, everything falls back into place, you know?
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Well, whatever you got to do to help people, I guess, is what counts, right?
Yeah, and I'm not going to bullshit anyone either. Ooh, am I allowed to curse?
Yeah, that's fine. The show's on late enough, and I put one swear word at the end of the show, too, so I'll try not to swear like a trucker, but...
Yeah, no, I try not to pull the wool over anyone's eyes. Like, if there is a legitimate need and you need to get some spell work done, I can either do it for you, or if I feel like it's over my qualification, I'll refer you to someone. Like, I'm not prideful. I'm not trying to steal business. Like, it is what it is. If you need help, I'm going to try and get you that help wherever you can get it. But I always recommend the cleansing and the blessings first, which is usually cleaning the home, cleaning the body and the mind, cleaning like your car, your office space, any place that you spend time, clearing it out, cleaning and cleansing it. Once you do that, the doors fly right open, and usually the things that you are lacking start to flow in.
Yeah.
Usually.
No, it's
unless
funny.
There's some kind of a block.
Yeah, it's like in the spring when everyone does their spring cleaning in their apartment or something. It's like not only is your apartment cleaner, but overall you feel better, right?
You just feel better, yeah.
All right, so I guess maybe I'll move on to, what did we have here? I guess this would be part of the cleansing or the aura clearing. It's like a slide of a First Nations person using smoke. I guess smoke even
Smoking.
In modern times they talk about how smoke is actually good if you're out in the woods or you're stranded somewhere and you can't get to a shower or something. You'll actually be able to kill bacteria with smoke, right? So it's like the ancient myths and the science have actually confirmed that this is a real thing, right?
For sure. Smoking can completely change the ionic atmosphere. Like, I love using smoke in any kind of clearing, banishing, blessing. Just smoke is one of my favorite avenues. And yes, it can change an entire environment. And smoke happens so quickly, too. It can fill every corner. It's just like water. You can't escape it. You know what I mean? Yeah. It gets into every nook and every cranny.
No, it's weird, too.
And quickly.
the ancient magi, like long time ago when they came to visit Jesus, apparently that was one of the 3 gifts that they brought, was some sort of frankincense, I believe it was. So it's like even in the ancient times, it's gone way back that the incense can really help, right?
Oh yeah, oh yeah. But as you know, I'm the fan of the essential oils too.
Yeah.
I'll throw some frankincense in a diffuser and just as good.
Nice. Yeah, I don't think I've ever tried frankincense yet. I'll have to try picking it up sometime.
Oh, it's an awesome smell. It's so great.
All right, there was a...
So yeah, that looks like the chakras and the auras, yes.
Yeah, that's...
So like I had said, you know, as a kid, I used to see that without an issue.
Wow.
As I got older, it started to fade, and I had to kind of reteach myself how to do that again. And it's really interesting, you know, when you see people, especially when you see people really in their joy, really doing something that they love to do, their aura just, like, it expands out, and it's usually white or purplish white, and it just expands out so big. When they're doing something that they love, they just get so big, and it's just a beautiful thing to see, and it's a naturally cleansing thing too, because I've actually seen people who, like, let's say they're having a really bad day and they've been sick, right? And you can see the little black patches and the little holes in their aura that looks really sickly. The minute they go to like a comedy show or something that they really enjoy doing, all of a sudden the white from inside the center of themselves begins to expand, and it actually pushes out all of the gook from the outer layers and actually heals itself. So 90% of the time when I tell people who need a chakra and aura cleaning, a lot of times I just say, go laugh, go play, go have a good time. And I can almost guarantee you'll heal yourself. You won't even need me. Obviously, people with a lot more issues, you know, will work on them. But usually when you're just feeling down or a little depressed or something like that, and your aura is just sickly and tired looking, a good laugh fixes everything.
No, they always, what does the saying go, that laughter can be medicine or whatever? And it's like if you just boost your mood. It's like my godmother was able to see auras when she was younger too, and she said lighting tended to help a lot too. If someone was standing in sunlight, it made it easier to see their aura rather than being in a dark spot. Yeah, we actually got a question from one of the viewers here. She's asking, do you also work with stones?
With crystals and stones, I do. Okay. I don't do any services with them because, I don't know, I just never really offered that, but I do it personally for myself, yes. Yeah. For sure. Yeah. And I love stones because they are so magical. I mean, the geometric shapes and the magic that's held within them. I mean, there's nothing more pure than getting a good gemstone, a good crystal from the earth, for sure.
I picked up one at a flea market when I was a teenager, and I've kept it my whole life. It's like a giant amethyst crystal, and it's like a purple type color, I guess, if people haven't seen one before. And I don't know, just meditating and holding it seems to enhance the effect of meditation.
Oh, if you have amethyst, for sure. And especially if you're a dreamer, like you said you are, if you keep that thing by your bed, forget about it, child. You'll be all over the place.
That's actually where I keep it, and I didn't even notice that. It's funny how sometimes you end up doing things subconsciously without even knowing that that's how you're supposed to do it. Right?
Remember that whole inner spirit talk that we had in the beginning? That's what that is.
Yeah, there's definitely something to that, I think. No, and it's neat how the sacred tree symbol that I research in Ancient Mysteries all the time, some cultures put this same chakra system and incorporate it into the sacred tree. Almost like maybe that the human body is part of this ancient ritual that it's trying to explain.
Yeah, it's amazing. You know, you go to Chinese culture, you go to Jewish culture, any mysticism that you'll find in almost any culture will talk about these sort of power points, these meridian points that are found not only on the earth but in our body as well, and how all of those things connect with each other. I mean, if you were to look at your chakra system and do it based on the endocrine system and how each chakra is associated with a particular gland and how that gland helps your whole body function, it's just right off the bat, you can see the correlations, and it comes in pieces too. So if you were to put yourself as a small piece, or just, let me use another word, like a microcosm of the earth, which is then a microcosm of the universe, which is then a microcosm of, you know what I mean? And it goes and it goes and it goes. You'll see the common thread of these sort of power points, these little meridian points that where the energy is most condensed and most powerful. And if that point is clogged, or if it's too open, there's an imbalance there. And usually a lot of destruction and a lot of things happen around that point when it's either too blocked or too open. And so it's this idea of constant struggle of just staying balanced, you know, keeping yourself aligned always. And that's a tough task, especially when you're connected with everything else. So when the earth is imbalanced, you're imbalanced. When the universe is imbalanced, you're imbalanced, and vice versa, you know? So that's why when you see people talking about, for example, you know, social justice or environmentalism or women's rights or whatever, and not to get too political, but like when you see people fighting for these things, what they're really, really fighting for is this comebackness to balance, because we're all so sick. And it really stems from that. It really, really does.
No, it's definitely a tough situation in the world right now. It seems like a lot of these issues are coming up more than they ever have before. And it's like keeping my fingers crossed. It's like just on the verge of a new horizon, of a new golden age, maybe that's why we're going through all these hard times.
Yeah, me too.
All right, I guess I'll get into a little bit about the aromatherapy. For anyone who hasn't heard, it's like I work with a company, well, I've done a little bit of product testing and designing with them, called Airizer, and then they specialize in aromatherapy devices also. And some people are going to use it for cannabis and stuff, but there's other ways of like other plants that are also really good to use for it. And the neat thing about mine is it sort of uses a process that involves heat to separate the chemicals into an essential oil, while I guess a lot of other cases it's used with like maybe a solvent like alcohol, or I guess you make your own. Is that how you do yours? Or
no, unfortunately I don't make my own. I have to purchase it. So I either get it from the company that I work for, or I have to get it imported. Usually from India is where I like to get mine.
Oh, from India. Yeah, that's really cool. Yeah, so my invention's probably going to be coming out with a second model in July, and I'll be talking a little bit more about that later, but I don't want to dwell too much on that tonight, maybe, I guess, because we're really hoping to talk about the enchanted items. I guess you do some work with those too, or?
Yeah, yes. Well, we're definitely going to talk about those machines, because I would love to make my own essential oils in the future. So yes, we'll definitely talk about that. Enchanted items, you know, it's a lot of people I guess the word enchanted really kind of gets people all like in this great headspace, but it's really not that complicated. It really isn't. It's this idea of putting life into an object, or pulling life, like awakening the life that's already in the object. So for example, a lot of people think that, you know, rocks are, or dolls, that's a better example, dolls are inanimate objects, right? Yeah. They're like, oh, it's a doll, it's not alive, it looks like life, but it's not alive. Well, when you enchant a doll, you're putting life into a doll. And so now it has a magical property, and now it has an essence that you can then work with, right? Same thing with, you know, mojo bags, grease bags. Same thing with candles. You know, whatever it is you're working with, when you imbue it with life, you're enchanting it, you're giving it life. Now, then there are other things, for example, like crystals, right? So crystals come from the earth. Crystals have their own energy, but a lot of times that energy is dormant, or it might be turned off for whatever the reason, because maybe it spent a lot of time in like a stock room, or it was on someone's shelf for way too long and away from the earth, and it didn't have the opportunity to really stay awake. Wow. So what an enchantment will do is it will then pull the life from the stone, like awaken it, basically. So it's kind of a two-way street with it.
Yeah, I guess the
I should
most.
do a video on that too. That's
Yeah,
really cool.
well, I think the most famous enchanted item, maybe it's on a different line of enchantment, but would be like the what is it, the Excalibur, the Sword in the Stone, and how that sword was apparently enchanted. And it's like an amulet that's been in my family for a while, like a copy of an Anubis. I wonder sometimes if it's been enchanted as well. But maybe I'll talk a little bit about that after the break. Would you be up for taking the break now, I guess? Or
Sure, let's do it.
okay, so I'm
I
just
hope
gonna.
everyone's around.
Yeah, I'm just gonna play a song from one of Lailani's live concerts in New York, and it's a really awesome song. So I hope everyone sticks around until after the break. It won't be too long. All right, so see everyone after the break. Oh yeah, we'll probably be able to hear us talking during the video, so I just figured I'd mention that before I start playing it.
Was wondering if after all these years you'd like to meet to go over everything. They say the time's supposed to heal you. I ain't done much wrong. Hello, can you hear me? I'm in California dreaming about who we used to be when we were younger and free. I've forgotten how it felt before the world fell at our feet. There's such a difference between us, and I'm
not sure if the sound is on.
Hello from the other side. I must have called 1,000 times to tell you I'm sorry for everything that I've done. But when I call, you never seem to be home. Hello from the outside. At least I can say that I've tried to tell you I'm sorry for breaking your heart, but it don't matter, clearly doesn't tear you apart anymore. Hello, how are you? It's so typical of me to talk about my strength and song. I hope that you will. Did you ever make it out that young enough? It's no secret that the both of us are running out of time. So hello from the other side. I must have called 1,000 times to tell you I'm sorry for everything that I've done. But when I call, you never seem to be home. Hello from the outside. At least I can say that I tried to tell you I'm sorry for breaking your heart, but it don't matter, clearly doesn't tear you apart anymore. Seem to be home.
Wow, you're an incredible singer. I can't believe that you're not like on the radio every day. It's like, are you on the radio in New York often, or?
No, no, no. We're just a local band, local cover band. But thank you so much. That's awesome.
Yeah.
It's so weird to like see yourself, you know.
Yeah, that was just a clip from one of our live concerts. I hope people don't mind that there was a little bit of audience in the background, but man, still, like your voice really carries the way you hit those high notes is incredible. It's like, have you been singing your whole life, I guess, or?
Yep, the magic and the music went hand in hand for sure.
Wow, that's cool. Well, hopefully someday I'll manage to make it to New York. It'd be awesome to hear you
Oh
sing
my
live.
gosh, that would be so awesome.
Yeah, I was hoping to ask you maybe if you've ever heard of enchanted ancient items before, because that's something that comes up in my research a lot. Like my godmother managed to find an Anubis amulet in a house in Canada about 50 years ago, just when she was a kid, and it's been in our family ever since. And I feel like it's really affected how I research ancient mysteries, and even my uncle ended up getting involved in some stuff. Like a lot of synchronicities have happened around this amulet, and it was weird how in the show before you mentioned too about the breath of life. And this Anubis amulet, I wasn't able to identify it at first because it had an open mouth. But then I found out that Anubis was involved with the opening of the mouth ceremony in the afterlife so that people could speak. So that's one of the ways I was able to identify it. So do you ever come across these sort of things? Or I guess is that sort of unusual?
Yeah, no, I haven't, not yet, but that is so cool. And you know, if you're having those experiences with it, I would definitely get that checked out. Like, you know, seek someone or get a reading from someone. They even have those machines now. I forget what they're called. They're similar to those EMF machines that they use for ghost hunting, where they'll hold it over the object and it emits something, some kind of a, I don't even know how it works, bro, but like it'll definitely say something of the effect of whether or not it's got something attached to it. Yeah. That's interesting.
No, so far I've brought it to conventions in Toronto and showed it to a lot of people, and some Egyptology students loved it, and they put me in contact with the head curator of the museum, so I'm supposed to bring it in to get it checked out there. And then also, what was it? I brought it to a 3D replicating studio in Toronto, and they took some 3D scans of it, and they were able to identify the metal. They believe it's a stainless steel. And it's like really old, so it's odd that it would be made of stainless steel. So, and it's super thin, like only like a few millimeter, I think half a millimeter thick, and yet it's super strong. So it's like, in a way, there's a lot of tests that have been done already that people are wondering what the heck it is. I think the whole lab in Toronto, they said people were talking about it like, what is this thing?
Wow. No. You know, the first thing that came to mind, the first thing that I thought about when you said, you know, steel was like, you know, Japanese swords.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, like, some of them are really old, but they were also super strong, even stronger than we can make today. So it's like, could be something to that. No, it was a really nice thing too, is that the University of Ottawa offered to do carbon dating on the paint because they believe it's animal based, but the only problem is they need a large paint sample, and since it's such a small amulet, like I've got a copy here that the studio made me in Toronto, and it's so tiny that you'd have to peel off all the paint in order to get enough for a sample. So I'm probably going to use that as a last resort to try to figure out how old it is. But maybe one day.
That is insane, dude. Oh my god.
Yeah. No, the weird part too is like this version of Anubis isn't really too common in Egypt, but the Phoenicians had a version of Anubis that looked the same. So I was wondering, like, the Phoenicians always had the ships for traveling, so maybe that's how it got to Canada such a long time ago.
Very possible.
Yeah,
very possible.
And if you want a copy of it, or if any of the listeners want a copy of that lab in Toronto, it cost me a lot of money, like $2,000 to get it all scanned and such, but I'm giving away the 3D printing file for free, so if anyone wants to make their own copy of it, they can. It's like, even if you don't have a 3D printer, too, it's like, libraries and stuff will make 3D prints for free, so it's like, anyone who wants to get one of these, you don't even really need money to do it. I'll give you the file for free, and yeah, and if you want to message me after the show, maybe I can give you a copy of the file, too. I'm sure in New York, the libraries there can make one.
Yeah.
No, I guess, is there anything
That would be
else?
awesome.
Cool. Yeah, I really appreciate you taking a look at it, and yeah, maybe I can get a reading done by it, or get a reading by someone done on it, because there could be some sort of attachment to it. Like, my cousins used to live with the amulet in the house, and there's instructions on how you're supposed to store it, like facing east, and they noticed every time they faced it in a different direction that they could hear weird voices in the house at night. So luckily I haven't encountered anything like that with it, but it's weird how like special amulets that are enhanced or other items like can have like almost supernatural abilities to them, it seems, right?
Yes, and the coolest thing about them too is they don't expire. Like once an
Okay.
enchanted item is enchanted, it's enchanted unless someone removes the enchantment, and they'd have to be very skilled at what they're doing in order to do that. So that is so cool, though. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I was so happy when my godmother mentioned that she had found it and let me research it, because like I do some work with adept initiates and wrote a few blogs about it, and it's really been my most popular blog to date yet. So it was really wild to be involved with something like that.
For
Yeah,
sure.
who
Oh,
knows?
another fun fact, it's one of the easiest ways to give out curses. It's one of the easiest ways to do that too.
Oh,
So that's just a
really?
fun fact.
Yeah, sometimes I wonder if I'm like stepping on or playing with fire or giving out copies of the amulet. Hopefully, nothing happens bad to anyone who has it. So, I'm, I'm
Yeah,
not.
I mean, just from what it looked like, it did not give a bad vibe at all. Just from seeing the pictures, it didn't give off any kind of bad vibe. So that's good.
Yeah, cool. Right. So, I guess is there anything else that you wanted to add before we wrap up the show, or like any of the new projects you're going to be working on? Maybe some new concerts you got coming up for singing, or
Well, let's see. Our band does a lot of private gigs and a lot of holiday gigs. So it is the holidays, so I've got a lot of stuff booked, for Christmas time, New Year's Eve time, and Valentine's Day. So I got a bunch of stuff happening locally with that.
nice.
With Magical business, I'm going to actually be doing a couple of interviews as well, just like you,
Cool.
but I'll be interviewing other people, and I'm excited about that. That's coming up in the next few weeks.
Cool.
Yeah, I've been really working hard with the community with regards to healing. It's been an ongoing process. I would say since the end of September and into October, just a lot of requests for healing, people suffering, people just not doing well.
Yeah.
So I spent the majority of my time, making healing oils and doing a healing altar and just trying to get as much healing information out there as possible. So I'm slowly wrapping that up, and then I'll be moving on to a new project based on whatever the community needs now, and that's what I do. Like I just
Nice.
listen, whatever you guys need, let me know, and I'll figure out a way to make it happen.
All right, cool. And I guess everyone, the best way to reach you is through either your Facebook page or the Magical Solution
Yeah.
at Gmail.
Please, yeah, the Facebook page and the Gmail for sure. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I really appreciate you coming on the show, and sorry that I had to delay it by a couple hours there. It's like it really means a lot to me that we got a chance to talk.
Me too. This was so much fun, and you're so easy to talk to. I'm not gonna lie, everybody. I was a little nervous, but it was so easy to talk to you. So thank you. This was great.
Okay, I appreciate that. It really means a lot, and hopefully I get to hear you sing again soon. I'm going to be listening to your YouTube channel a lot more.
I was actually thinking about doing that for the magical page because I got the music page that I never update, and I
Yeah,
figured let me incorporate it in the magical page because I think music and spirituality is a beautiful combination. So why not, right?
cool. All right, so if you got any new projects coming up or you want to talk on the show again sometime, you're welcome anytime. I really appreciate it and hope you have a good holiday season.
You too. You too. Thank you so much again. This was awesome. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Take care. Bye bye.
Bye.
All right, everyone. that was Lailani, and I'm gonna have a new link posted or a new Facebook page link with all of our website information. So just in case you didn't hear it or didn't get a chance to write it down. And this upcoming Thursday, I've got another guest, Curtis, and we're going to be talking about the ancient mysteries going on at a place called Magog in Quebec. So I don't know if anyone's heard about this before, but there's some really wild stuff going on at that place, and not a whole lot of people are talking about it. So really looking for that show. Really, really looking forward to that show. Right, I guess, was there anything else that I needed to talk about before I wrap up the show? Yeah, I think that was just about everything. So let's see here. Yeah, there it is. Yeah, I figured I'd just play the closing music. Yeah, and if anyone wants to share the YouTube video of this, I'd really appreciate it. If you can subscribe, it'd be a big help. I only have about 50 so subscribers, and it's slowly going up. So if I can get that up over 100 maybe before the new year, that'd be awesome. And I really appreciate all the questions in the chat too. That was awesome. It's nice having some interaction with the viewers. And yeah, I hope everyone has a good night. Thanks again. Take care.
The Magi Show was brought to you by the Milky Way. I fucking hate this galaxy.